here I am in this condition, Krishna. I put myself here. Oh, do I long for that day, when I become, by your grace, when you say I'm ready, you bless me that I've left behind all my attachments for everything that has nothing to do with you. I want to see everything in relation to you, Krishna. I want to move through this world seeing every living being as yours. I want to see every living being in connection with you. I still walk through this world seeing, relating too much on the external level, not loving every living being the way that you do. Oh, how I long for that day when I can have that vision. When you could please grant me that vision, then I can truly serve you with love. Until I come there, I can't. And still I'm holding on. Please help me let go. Please help me let go. I want to see every living being as someone that you love, and I want to love them the way that you love them. I want to love them all. And I want to see everything that happens to me in this world as something handed to me by you. I don't want to become confused. When I become confused and I don't see that, I become resentful. I become angry. I become attached. I become fearful. I become angry, right? All of this is because I'm forgetting you. I want to constantly remember you. Please help me to remember you always.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Live from New York City's Upper West Side, this is Wisdom of the Sages. I'm your host today, Kaustubha Das. I'm here with Mara. How you doing, Mara?
Good morning.
And
Great.
it is episode 1637?
Yep.
1637? Okay, 1637 episodes. Good morning to you, Mara. How you doing?
Good morning. I'm doing well.
Now today, Raghunath is not with us. He's just taking a day off. It's just what it is. There's really no excuse. There's no reason. But hey, he works hard. That man deserves a day off every now and then. True?
Yes, definitely.
But how will he use the time? That's the question, Mara. Because if he's running around just as much, running around like crazy, then he's not going to get any rest.
He's about to go for a bike ride, but that's good for him.
That can be relaxing.
Yeah.
Okay. Today's our Q&A day. I will be taking, and with Mara, maybe we'll bounce him back at you a little bit too, Mara. We might do that. But I'll answer questions. We've been answering questions from Akshay, and Chapu also sent in a bunch of questions a few weeks ago. We want to finish up on her questions, so let's see what we cover today. But first, there are important announcements, and then we have a special guest that we have to bring on briefly, right?
That's right.
Okay.
All right. So our registration for session 11 for the Sage Groups begins today at 9 a.m. Eastern Time. So it's right after the show.
Right after the show, you jump right on and you get your spot.
Yep. And the registration link will be posted on the Sage Group page right at 9 a.m. For the first week, you can register for only one group, but on July 5th, we'll open it up. So if you want to register for more than one group.
There are people that do that.
Yeah, and registration ends on July 13th, but don't wait to register because the groups fill up really early, like in the first 2 days.
That's right.
And the 11th session runs for 8 weeks, so it goes July 14th to September 14th. And if you have any questions, you can email sagegroups108@gmail.com.
It goes from July
14th?
14th?
Yep, July 14th through September 14th.
Okay, 8 weeks.
Yeah.
Oh,
Also, I should mention...
a little commitment. It's not a big deal. 8 weeks.
Yeah. People get so much out of the Sage Groups.
That's right.
Also, I should mention there's no show tomorrow or Monday because we're traveling.
That's right. We go to Italy.
Yeah.
And then what time are we going to be on? We'll get the word out. But it'll probably be the same time. It'll probably be 7, but we'll let
7 Eastern Time.
Okay. All right, Mara. Now we have a special guest today. Is our special guest ready to appear?
Our special guest is here and ready.
It's Raghunath. Look at this
I
guy.
listen, I appreciate the day off. I'm going for a bike ride.
But you just love us so much that you just can't stay away.
You know why? I have a
Why?
bona fide Krishna miracle that I just have to share.
Well, Raghunath, you can bring on the Krishna miracles, but I will be the one to determine whether it's bona fide or
All
not.
right.
All right.
You're gonna
But you seem very confident that even I will approve of this one.
Okay.
Tell us
What do
what
you
you
think,
think.
Barra? What
So
do you think?
me and okay, first of all, I got to make an announcement that me and Lori Pag, as soon as we get back from Italy, I think it's the weekend of July 19th, have a yoga retreat. It's yoga and kirtan. And she's
Okay.
an excellent yoga teacher. So, but we're
You're an excellent
doing that
kirtan.
retreat at Super Soul Farm. It's almost sold out. So if you're interested, you got to get on that. Go to my website, raghunath.yoga. Okay, check this out. So me and Tarun are going to mow the lawn at the front of the driveway yesterday. And a car slows down, like on our dirt road. We live on a dirt road in the middle of nowhere. A
What
car
is it,
slows
10
down.
houses maybe on the whole road?
On the whole road, there's maybe 10 houses,
Spread out.
and it's like a mile, yeah, a 2 mile dirt road.
Okay.
So a car slows down, and this older couple, probably 10 years, 12 years older than me, so maybe in their late 60s, maybe 70, they stop
think
and
they're in
they
their
and they say,
mid-70s.
"Hi, we want to introduce ourselves. We live down the road. We've
Okay.
been meaning to come here for years." They say, "We do pilgrimages all over India, Tibet, Bhutan, and Nepal
Okay.
for decades. We've been to Kailash many times. Kailash is like nobody does parikrama around Kailash. It's a very
Interesting.
rare thing to do.
Interesting.
That's
Yeah.
on the border of China and Nepal and Tibet and he says he's like we've been to the Kali Gandaki River many times. We've lived in South India. We've he goes we're actually like I'm a scientist and a photojournalist and I have people that take me inside to these temples you're not in. I have photos of deities that have never been photographed before. And yeah, I heard like you're into yoga and India and stuff like that. I really want to meet you. Please come over and visit us. So we were like a little blown away.
Okay.
And then we went to visit them, and they live on the other side of the hill on Schilling's Crossing. And they actually have all these big, beautiful picture books out on Angar Watt, on
Coffee
which is
table books.
big coffee table books. I was like, I wonder if you know my publisher, Ramda or Raul Goff from Mandala Media, who put out my book. He says, "Oh yeah, we know them really well. They almost did our books, but we went with a different publisher." So they actually knew my publisher, who's a devotee.
Okay.
And then they have a whole table of Shalagram Shilas.
Whoa.
I was like, there are Shalagram Shilas being.
Were
They're
they
not
worshiping
worshipped.
them?
They're not worshipped, but they're
Take them.
respected. They're respected. I was feeling like that. Maybe they will give me.
Take them.
They say deities have a mind of their own. So maybe they were.
Maybe they're
Maybe they're
calling
meant
you.
to be. Maybe they might not worship. Can I worship one of your deities? I'm going to invite them over for dinner when we get back, and I'm going to show them our Shalagram Shilas. Who would think that on Schilling's Crossing there's people with Shalagram Shilas
Krishna miracle.
and like 4 gorgeous
Shiva Linga.
Shiva lingams as well.
Wow.
And they were like, gave me these shalagrams. They were sitting with them sometimes people sit with the shalagrams and hold them in meditation in Nepal. He says, yeah, we actually went to the source of the Gandaki River. We went, we went to Muktinath. We went to above Muktinath. There's a kund above Muktinath.
Okay.
Anyway, come on. So I said before
Come
the
on.
show, Kaustubha, I've got a Krishna miracle. You go, let me decide if it's a Krishna miracle. Was that or was
I
that a bona
say
fide Krishna miracle?
Krishna miracle.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, everyone. Have a
Thank
good
you.
day. My name's Raghunath. I'm out of here.
My name is Raghunath. I live miracles. All right. That's very interesting, Mara. Did you go or are you just hearing about this?
Yeah, I went up to their house and
So
visited.
you can verify this
I
information.
can verify that what he's saying
Okay.
is all true. He didn't even exaggerate.
Okay, very good. That's really interesting.
Yeah, wild, right?
How did they find out about you guys?
I think they've just been driving by the property, and we have kirtans, we have people here.
Sometimes they can hear the kirtan. They know
Yeah.
something. They didn't know about the podcast or anything.
They didn't know about the podcast. You know, they also like are friends with another neighbor, the one who takes care of Gus for us
Right.
sometimes when we're gone, and so they knew Gus, so I'm sure that they heard it
They
that
probably filled him in a little
we
bit.
practice
Gus
yoga.
gets around.
Gus gets around. He meets all the neighbors.
Okay. All right, Mara. So it's Q&A now. What do
All
we
right,
got?
let's dive into some questions. The first one's from Akshay.
Yeah.
This is an
Again,
interesting.
briefly, Akshay was a person I met doing. I was doing Q&A every night for a month in Rishikesh this past February, March.
Mm.
And Akshay was a person on the last night. He said, "I got so many more questions."
Mhm.
I said, "Okay, well."
So then he sent us 81, and I
He's
think he
mailed in
sent us
81. I said,
more.
"Mail him in. We'll take him on the show." And then he mailed
Yeah,
in. And we're knocking them off one by one.
yeah.
And you'll
Good.
see, even in today's question, it's one question, but it's really like four
Mm,
or five questions.
yeah. So Akshay writes, how do I deal with another person's attachment towards me? If
Okay.
someone else is emotionally attached to you, how should you deal with it? Like my mother, should you tell them to be detached for their spiritual growth? Or should you become detached yourself? Or should you thank them and feel grateful for their attachment to you?
Okay. I can imagine Akshay probably has a loving Indian mother,
Mm,
right? And he's into his spiritual thing, probably. And maybe she's a little concerned.
yeah.
You know, will Akshay get married? Will Akshay have children? You know?
Yeah.
Um, and so, okay, it's a good question. It's a question about attachment. And different schools of yoga see attachment in different ways. Um, you know, of course, the Bhagavad Gita is going to speak about, even Bhagavad Gita will speak about detachment in different ways. Like there's a statement, I think we were speaking about it a couple weeks ago on the show. Uh, what is it? Vita, Raga, Bhaya, Krodha, Stita Dhira Muni Uchate. That the Stita Dhira Muni, the one who is called a sage of steady mind, is one who is Vita Raga, who is free of attachment. Vita Raga, free of attachment. Bhaya, free of fear. Krodha, free of anger. These are the symptoms of one whose consciousness has become free from the influence of the world that we're living in, right? If you're detached, if you're free of fear, if you're free of anger, it means you're anchored in the spiritual. We were talking about that yesterday, I think it was, right? Being anchored in the eternality. When you're anchored in eternality, the fear goes away. You know, it's a state that's free of attachment and anger. So here we're hearing, you know, this Krishna statement about we need to become free of attachment. But he'll also say, essentially, he'll say, attach yourself to me. You know, he'll talk about being nitya yukta upasate. You know, worshiping me by being always yukta, always yoked to me, always connected to me, always attached to me. And even, you know, particularly in our Gaudiya lineage, the followers of Sri Chaitanya, in our understanding of the practice of bhakti, really our goal is called raga bhakti, where our devotion is based on a strong attachment, strong feelings of attachment for Krishna. But even our idea of attachment goes beyond just being attached for Krishna. It means attaching yourself to what is attached to Krishna, you know, or attaching yourself to what Krishna is attached to. We can be attached to Krishna if we're attached to what he's attached to. And so there's a famous verse. The great teachers in our lineage have kind of extracted this verse from the Padma Purana and highlighted it in different books like the Chaitanya Charitamrita, the Laghu Bhagavatamrita. And it's a statement, it's Lord Shiva speaking to his wife. And he says, Aradhananam sarvesham, Aradhananam sarvesham. Amongst all the, Aradhana means worship. So Aradhananam sarvesham, amongst all of the different varieties of worship that are out there. Vishnu Aradhanam, the worship of Vishnu, param. The worship of Vishnu is the highest worship. And that's not a sectarian statement. It's just because he's the root of it all, right? But then he says this, Lord Shiva says this. He says, but my dear Devi, worship Tadiyanam Samarchanam, that the worship of Tadiyana, worship of that which is connected to Krishna, is actually considered even still higher. Somehow that's more pleasing to Krishna and connects you and attaches you to Krishna all the more. So within our practice, we not only do we embrace the idea of attachment, we're detached on the material level by becoming attached on the spiritual level, on the personal level, attached to Krishna and attached to what Krishna is attached to. And especially that means the devotees, right? Attached to those people that have attachment for Krishna in them. So I'm just laying out this background just to share that attachment, we need to let go of our material attachments, and we also, but we view it that our process for doing that is by becoming attached on the spiritual level. So your mother's attachment for you, for instance, whether that should be encouraged or discouraged, has to be understood within this broader context of attachment. Right? And I want to share something else, and that is that the teachings of Bhakti, the teachings of Vedanta, they're broad, and how we present them to someone is nuanced. In other words, you're saying the question began, how do I deal with another person's attachment towards me? That may be different according to the person that we're talking about, and may be different according to you and where you're at in your life. So this path of Bhakti Vedanta, it gives us so much knowledge, and you could say so many different tools. And what to speak of, like when we're explaining it to someone else or practicing it in relation to other people, we're given all these tools, but we have to know which tool to use for which task, right? Which tools are appropriate when I'm dealing with this specific person, and maybe another tool that's appropriate when I'm dealing with. In other words, I may explain my practice to one person in one way and explain it to another person in another way, according to where they're at. You know, Prabhupada used to tell this story. He said there was like a veterinarian kind of person. You know this one, Mary? I see you
This is
smiling
the
over
horse
there.
and the watermelon.
No, don't give it away, Mary. You're
Oh,
giving away that punchline. But yeah. But there's a doctor, like a horse doctor, like, and he's got this apprentice, and the apprentice is kind of watching him. But the apprentice is a little bit like he's like a little bit he wants to take over too soon, like an upstart, you know. And so he sees the master horse doctor, and they're called to see this horse, and the horse is lying down on the ground and suffering. And the man opens up the mouth of the horse and he looks in there, and then he tells the apprentice, give me the bag. And he goes in there, and there's so many different, you know, tools that he has, different instruments that he has to treat the horses. But he takes out like a big mallet, and he just starts pounding on the neck of the horse, which seems very unusual way to treat this horse. But in no time, the horse just like jumps up on its feet and is normal. And, you know, he's thanked by the horse's owner and paid. And the apprentice looks at this and says, this being a horse doctor is not such a tough thing, you know, not such a difficult thing. And then he goes off on his own, you know, quickly and begins his own practice. But word gets back to the original horse doctor that, you know, that apprentice that you had? Yeah, I remember him. He kind of disappeared, but yeah. He said, well, he's going around, he's opened up his own practice, and he's like herding horses wherever he goes. And then, so then he's brought to this new apprentice doctor, and he says, what are you doing? You know, you practiced with me for a little while, and you never really learned the whole thing, and now you started your own practice? And he said, well, I was looking at what you're doing. It didn't seem so hard. And he says, well, what are you doing to all these horses? It's hurting them so. Well, I saw what you do. You take out that big mallet and you start pounding on the neck. He says, what's the matter with you? You know, don't you understand? That was a special circumstance. That horse had swallowed a watermelon, okay? And I just had to break up that watermelon in its neck, you know? And so that was just like a unusual thing. But it's not that's the way you treat every horse. You got to know what instrument is appropriate for what malady that a person has, or, you know, or a horse has. And so in a similar way, how we express bhakti to different people will be different at different times. And how you express it to your mother, you know, You bring up your mother. I don't know if that's your sole concern or if this is a broader question, but I'll read it again. He said, how do I deal with another person's attachment towards me? If someone else is emotionally attached to you, how should you deal with it? Like my mother, you know what? Your mother is always going to be emotionally attached to you. That's not going to end, unless she's like some kind of super ज्ञानी woman or something like that. It's going to be the very rare mother that's not going to have some attachment to you. So you have to think of how you express your practice of bhakti to her in a way that will not harm her, like some apprentice horse doctor that just, even if what you're telling her is the truth, it may not be helpful for her. Or there may be a way that you can express the truth that will be helpful for her. Or it may be that the truth that you have to offer, she's just really not ready for it. But through your behavior and through your own practice, her attachment for you can be a positive thing, right? We say attachment is not necessarily detrimental, that attachment can be a positive thing. It can be a helpful thing, right, Raghunath? He's walking around. Okay. And so if you're, you can say, Mom, I see how attached you are to me, But if she's ready, you might be able to express, and you know what, I love you too. But think about life too, it's like, isn't it true that this world brings us together and then it brings us apart? It's something worth thinking about, Mom, and someday we'll be apart, but that's nothing to fear. That's nothing to fear, because somehow we're two souls that have been brought together, but we can learn to love in this world in such a way that if we really develop our love for Krishna, that our love will spread to everyone. And the way that you love me, you can actually feel a connection to every living being in a similar way. Wouldn't that be amazing? In others, she may be ready to hear something like that. She may be, or she may not be. That may be something that's just like too alien and foreign to her. And maybe, and in that case, it's not going to do you any good to tell her, Mom, you're attached. Attachment leads to suffering. You need to detach yourself. She won't be able to. She'll sound like what you've taken up is some cruel, harsh kind of understanding. It's not a nice thing. It seems to be a harmful thing, right? So it's something that you have to apply akshaya according to the circumstance. You need to think about it. You also question, should you become detached yourself, or should you thank them and feel grateful for their attachment to you? In one sense, it's all these things, and it's just a question of which one to dial up when. Just like these DJs, right? Like they got like the bass over here, and then they got some other sound effects over here, and they got the vocals, and they know when to turn one up and when to turn one down. So we have truth that can be expressed in many different ways, and that can be understood on different levels. You just have to learn when to turn it up, when to turn up one thing and when to turn up another. And as the person that has this attachment, as they start to grow, you may turn one down a little and turn the other one up a little. So you got to be like that DJ, and you can turn things around. What do you think, Mara?
That's a good answer. I like that.
Okay. Yeah. So it's a nuanced thing. It's not a simple thing. It's not as simple as just saying detachment is truth, become detached, tell everyone to become detached. That'll be too much for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. His next question is, how does one work their way up from servant of the Lord to friend of the Lord?
Oh, okay. That's a
Question.
yeah. How does one work their way up from servant of the Lord to friend of the Lord?
He's looking for promotion, perhaps.
Yeah. You got to know the right people. And in one sense, that is the answer. You got to know the right people. But let's give some context to this. In one sense, I think we could understand what he's saying is, how can our connection and our service and our love for God develop more intimacy? Maybe in a general way, it could be understood that way. But phrase, just the way he phrased it, how can one work the way up from servant of the Lord to friend of the Lord? Let's go ahead and speak of a broader context in which this can be understood, specifically in our lineage, how these things are explained. And that is that the love, we say that love for God is experienced and expressed in different rasas. And rasa means, you could say, different flavors or tastes or varieties, right? Different varieties of flavors. And it said that there's something called shanta rasa, which means it's like the rasa or the taste is, shanta means peaceful, but here it means that it's kind of, I don't know if docile is the right word. It means I have an appreciation for God that's very deep and very profound. I've completely let go of everything material, and I recognize and appreciate God. But the idea of serving God hasn't arisen in me. It hasn't sprouted in me. It hasn't grown in me. And so I have this genuine, deeply realized appreciation for God, but it hasn't come to the point where I love you, I want to serve you. Right? And so then comes, so first there's that shantarasa, and then comes dasyarasa, and that means the servant, the mood of the servant. Now dasyarasa, there are different people that have that love for Krishna in that way. And I think Raghunath and I have talked about this a little bit. You know, when we hear about servitude, that can rub our feathers the wrong way,
Mhm.
particularly in the context of eternity. Like, okay, if I got to serve someone for a certain amount of time and get it over with, maybe I'm willing to do that. But you're talking about like an existence of servitude in eternality. Why would anyone want that? And what does that look like in Krishna's Leela? And like sometimes, like you'll see, like when Krishna's in Dwarka, he's got servants, you know, people that care for him and serve him. We need to try to understand this. I'll tell you something, Mary.
Hmm.
Once I was having a conversation with a woman who was like a radical feminist, and you know, whether I identify myself as a feminist or not really depends on your definition of feminism.
Okay.
But it was definitely not this person's, um, you know, understanding of feminism. And at some point, I said that I was talking about the service that a husband and wife do for each other. And she said, why would a woman want to serve a man? Why should she didn't even like the terms husband and wife. Like
Hmm.
even that was like offensive to her, you know. It should just be like partners or something like that. You know, it was a really extreme kind of understanding that she had, or ideology that she had. And she said, why would a wife serve a husband? Why would a woman serve a man? And I said, because she loves him, right? Because she loves him, that's why she would serve, you know. And it just it was it almost felt like that concept of love. She just couldn't understand that when you love someone, you naturally want to serve them. And I think you know, it's not uncommon for us to feel like that for God. When you love someone, you do want to serve them, you know. And so when someone loves God in a particular way, they can derive this great joy and satisfaction in serving Him. And if we're fortunate in life, we may, you see, that's dasyarasa. It means there's a superior in the relationship, right? One person is recognized as superior. Um, And, you know, if we're fortunate, we'll have people in our lives that we see as our superiors. You know, like
Hmm.
Raghunath and I feel that, like we had Radhanath Swami, not only Radhanath Swami, but we feel that way for him, right? When we relate to him, it's in a mood of like dasya, right? We don't even want to be treated too much like a friend by him. It doesn't feel natural. No, no, no. That doesn't work exactly for us because you're our superior. And we want to remain in the role as a servant too, and we feel his love from that position, and we enjoy and appreciate the opportunity to serve him, it's a natural form of love, and that's dasyarasa, the love of the servant. Now, following the dasyarasa, there's the friendship love, loving someone like a friend. There's loving someone with the love of a parent, like parental type of love. And then there's the love of, like, romantic love of a lover. And it's said that as you go from dasya, from the love of a servant, to the love of a friend, to the love of a parent, to the love of a lover, each one of those, it retains what the previous one had, but adds another element to it that makes it still more intimate. So like the friend, they have the mood of the servant. They want to serve Krishna. Service is still there. Service is the one thing that flows through all of them. It's the one thread that connects them all. But then there's added is a feeling of, it's not that there's a superior in the relationship, but that there's a equality. There's a feeling of equality. Like, Krishna's my friend. He's the same age as me. He's my buddy. I tease him. He teases me. We run around. Sometimes I beat him. Sometimes he beats me. We're equals. They see it that, even though they're not ontologically, but internally, in terms of rasa, right? In terms of tattva, in terms of like the eternal truth, Krishna's superior to the friend. But in terms of rasa, in terms of the feelings of love that they're feeling, they're equal, right? They both have a feeling of equality within their heart. And so, and then that goes up from the parental mood. It's actually again, tattva, Krishna is still superior, but in rasa, actually the parental figure is superior. I need to take care of Krishna. He needs me, right? And then with the lover, it's all of those, but then there's a strong intensity dialed up in it with the feeling of the romance. Okay, so I just wanted to share all of that as, like, when we talk about the esoteric side of bhakti, it gets very rich in its explanations. I'm just hitting the surface level of this. Then this is just the skeleton of it all. Then how you understand that goes deeper and deeper and deeper. And the bhakti yogis that have a deep understanding of the science of divine love, when they read Srimad Bhagavatam, it's not stories of mythology. They don't see it that way at all. They're seeing how Krishna's Leela, they're relishing the feelings that those devotees feel when they hear these pastimes of Krishna. They relish them themselves. This is the very beautiful spiritual reality that they enter into just by hearing, and that's ultimately the answer to Akshay's question. He said, how does one work the way up from servant of the Lord to friend of the Lord? And it's not like it's a ladder at a corporation or something that we need to climb. Some people are going to be eternally satisfied, perfectly satisfied, completely satisfied, with a heart just completely swollen with love for Krishna, and feeling waves of spiritual ecstasy eternally in that role of a servant, right? There's the story of Daruka, and Daruka is the charioteer of Krishna. He drives his chariot. That's a servant's job, you know. And it says one time he was fanning Krishna, and just by the act of that service, he could see I'm pleasing him, and his love for Krishna is so deep that when Krishna is pleased, he feels pleased. And it's not just the pleasure of this world, but it's a pleasure that's so deep that it's like you're drowning in happiness. And that happiness is so strong in him that he begins to be like unable to control his own body. You know, it's like so it's making it difficult for him to continue to fan him. And so he's even feeling like, oh, this ecstasy, it has to go down. Otherwise, I'm not going to be able to keep pleasing Krishna the way I'm pleasing him. That's the kind of happiness that one's experiencing in servitude
Mm.
in relation to Krishna. So it's not something that necessarily one is trying to work the way up. But the fact is that in our lineage, we hold a special reverence for the love that the residents of Vrindavan have, which is especially in friendship, in parentalhood, and in romantic love.
Mm.
And so we meditate on that and we value that very highly. And so, going back to his question, how does one advance, you could say, or transform from servitude to friendship? You could say, how does a deeper intimacy, how do feelings of deeper intimacy for Krishna arise in one? And we'd say that it arises in one by your yearning for it. And the way that yearning, develops in you is by hearing Krishna's pastimes, right? By doing all the practices of bhakti that we discuss here on a daily, on the daily, hearing Krishna's pastimes, chanting, not offending anyone, letting go of all the petty stuff, et cetera, et cetera. You do that practice, but then from the platform of that practice, or let's say, again, we talk about detachment, becoming free of attachment, becoming free of fear, becoming free of anger, and all that. All of that is a platform of the yogi, the peaceful mind of the yogi. But then within that peaceful mind of the yogi, we hear Krishna's pastimes. And then when you hear Krishna's pastimes and understand these are not ordinary affairs, these are spiritual emotions that are being expressed through actions of love, something arises in the heart naturally. Something will naturally come. You don't have to force it, but just by opening yourself up to hearing these leelas, hearing these pastimes, something will begin to rise in your heart in a specific flavor, right? And when one becomes quite advanced on this path, you'll have a special affinity for hearing the pastimes of Krishna's servants in one of these specific rasas. You'll love them all, but you'll feel a yearning in you for one in particular. And so that means that is starting to rise in you. It's not something that we do artificially. It's something that will arise in us, and you'll feel it, and it'll begin to direct you. You'll hear deeper and deeper and deeper. When that heart becomes very, very soft, then one can get the blessing they call it bhava, right? The heart becomes very soft and one's blessed with these special feelings, right? And then ultimately, when that fully blossoms, it's called prema, or love of God. So, long story short, practice bhakti very sincerely, and open up your mind and your heart and hear Krishna's leelas, and those more intimate feelings can awaken in you.
Good answer.
Okay, thank you, Maraji. Do you have a particular inclination in your devotion, Maraji?
My heart's not soft enough to have
Okay,
developed
that's
something.
me too. That's me too. That's right. I don't want to do it artificially, although I do think Raghunath is a parental love.
Yes, I think so too. I also, in this discussion, I think back to Krishna Murari Goswami and
Yeah.
the families of Nandagaon who care for Krishna, and
Yeah.
their ras of just like their friendship with Krishna, and
Yep.
just how like deep that feels and how they relate to Krishna on that friendship level.
Yes.
So
Well, you see, it's interesting. So Krishna Murari Goswami is our friend, but he's a Brijbasi. So
yes,
even though he's our friend, it's also a friendship where it's like not quite equal.
he
Because
comes
it's
from a
like
special family.
you were born and raised at the foot of the hill that Krishna, where Krishna had all his youthful pastimes,
Mm.
where Krishna and Balaram had all that. I said to him, it was interesting because he was born, his whole family for generations. I visited his home.
Mm-hmm.
Very simple home. When you see him, he seems like he's very a dignified gentleman, you might think he's an aristocrat in a sense.
Yeah, he comes across like he's royalty,
Yes.
kind of carries himself that way.
Yes.
It's a
Yeah.
certain like very,
Yeah, he's got that bearing about him.
yeah, he
But
does.
his home is the simplest Indian home, very, very, very modest in a sense. You know,
Mhm.
for like someone from the United States, it seems like that's just a few rooms with around a simple courtyard. You know, like, and there's a couple cows in the back and a buffalo. You know, and you know, babies around. It's a beautiful Bridgebasi life there. But you know, so he was born there, but he went to the Gurukula, the ISKCON Gurukula. So
Mhm.
he's kind of got feet in both worlds, like that Brijbasi world, which is something that we can't imitate, and
Yeah.
then raised in the International Society for Krishna Consciousness in Vrindavan. And I said, you know, in the temple where he grew up, right? It's a hill. He's at the foot of the hill, and you go up that, and his family have been serving the deities there, you know, forever. The temple is Krishna and Balaram, you know, are worshipped
Mm.
there. And then when he went to the ISKCON temple, it's also Krishna and Balaram. I say, wherever you go, it's Krishna and Balaram. He said, yes, yeah. But those Brijbasis, they're born into these kind of feelings. They naturally are think of themselves as Krishna's friends and family members right from their birth. And that's a very special, precious thing. But it's something we can't imitate. It's something that we feel a reverence for, and we serve, and we hear, and we open up our heart, and our day will come when we get blessed with those special feelings.
Mm. Beautiful.
Yeah. All
All
right.
right. Our next question comes from Chapu.
Right.
She asks, this question is on your personal prayer connection. She says, beyond your
Personal
regular,
prayer connection. That's okay.
no, no, beyond your regular practices, could you share a specific prayer, mantra, or even just a unique way of connecting that feels most personal and powerful to you in your own quiet moments?
Okay. In one sense, things that are personal are kept personal. but but in another sense, no, it's a good question. And I will reveal something of my heart. Um, all of this practice in bhakti, we need to learn to practice it in a way that's not merely mechanical. We may come to the point where we have faith in it. This all makes sense. It all clicks. Everything from the Vedanta philosophy and all the jnana that comes with that about understanding I'm not my body, I'm not my mind. This world is being moved by different energies, et cetera, et cetera. I get it on a theological level. It makes perfect sense that you have this personal figure of Sri Krishna who expands into different avatars. He expands as Vishnu. Vishnu enters into the material world on three different levels, you know, of Garbhodakshaya, or, you know, of Mahavishnu and Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, Kshirodakshaya Vishnu. You know, you may buy into, you may say, I've studied it, I've examined it. This is solid philosophically, it's solid theologically, I'm in. And what am I supposed to do now? Oh, you're supposed to chant 16 rounds of japa. I'm in. You know, you should do this, you should do that. I'm in, I'm in, I'm in. All of that is great. All that's great, you know. But at the same time, it's all meant to get us somewhere. And that is a personal relationship with Krishna. And so we need to open up and know and speak to, we need to treat Krishna like a person.
Mm.
And that means to speak to Krishna. And so I, um, I suppose it's not that there's a particular prayer that like I repeat that I want to share, but it's that, and Chapo mentioned here, I think she said, what did she say? Quiet moments,
Mm.
right? Even just a unique way of connecting that feels most personal and powerful to you in your own quiet moments. That's something that we need to cultivate, and not just occasionally, but daily. And ultimately, not just daily, but constantly. That one feels that connection, that one speaks to Krishna, that one doesn't just theorize about Krishna and bhakti, but that one begins to talk to Krishna, who's in the heart, right? He's right there at every moment. If we are ignoring him at every moment, even in our practices like chanting, you know, our study or seva or whatever, if we if we're not if we don't feel him right here, then we don't have the awareness that we're trying to cultivate. We're not actually Krishna consciousness, in Krishna consciousness. We're doing external activities, helpful activities, activities that we should do, but it needs to be enriched with feeling the presence of Krishna and having feelings for Krishna. We were reading about this, is it yesterday? No, the day before yesterday? Day before yesterday, I think it was, when we were hearing about Krishna. Krishna was telling Devaki, his mother, right? In your previous life, you were yogis. You and your husband were yogis. You were doing these intense austerities. You hardly eating, or it was like ridiculously severe. But you're doing it thinking of me. You're doing it with feelings inside, feelings for me, and that's why I become your son. That's why we're connected in this way, in this intimate way. And so whatever we're doing in our practices in bhakti, they're hollow if they're not done with genuine feelings for Krishna in the heart. And those ways that you're going to feel that and cultivate that feeling is that you speak to God. You speak to God in your heart and you open yourself up. And you can speak. And when we speak to God, we can speak to God in different ways. We can express, sometimes you want to express God your regrets, because it's kind of like, let's say you had a lover and then for no good reason you turn your back on them and hurt them, maybe even, and rejected them. You don't just come back, right? Come back like nothing happened. You come back by expressing your regrets. And so part of what we express to Krishna is our regrets. How have I ignored you? You've been nothing but loving and kind to me, and I turned my back from you. I regret that. I sincerely regret that. We need to express that to Krishna, And sometimes we can express to Krishna our longings, right? Our shortcomings and our longings. Here I am in this condition, Krishna. I put myself here. Oh, do I long for that day, when I become, by your grace, when you say I'm ready, you bless me that I've left behind all my attachments for everything that has nothing to do with you. I want to see everything in relation to you, Krishna. I want to move through this world seeing every living being as yours. I want to see every living being in connection with you. I still walk through this world seeing, relating too much on the external level, not loving every living being the way that you do. Oh, how I long for that day when I can have that vision, when you could please grant me that vision. Then I can truly serve you with love. Until I come there, I can't. And still I'm holding on. Please help me let go. Please help me let go. I want to see every living being as someone that you love, and I want to love them the way that you love them. I want to love them all. And I want to see everything that happens to me in this world as something handed to me by you. I don't want to become confused. When I become confused and I don't see that, I become resentful. I become angry. I become attached. I become fearful. I become angry, right? All of this is because I'm forgetting you. I want to constantly remember you. Please help me to remember you always, right? Talking to Krishna like this, and then even we can glorify Krishna in our mind and in our heart, right? We can look at you, Krishna, how beautiful you are. Oh my goodness, Krishna, your pastimes. Krishna, your devotees, who's more wonderful than them? We need to hear Krishna's Leela. We need to bring that flavor and all of those flavors into our mind and our heart so that we have something to express. Then it'll become so clear to us where I'm at and where I need to get.
Mm.
On the Brahman, Paramama, and ultimately on the Bhagavan levels. I need to realize I'm not this body and I'm not this mind. I need to realize that this world is illusory and that it's a trap. I need to realize that Krishna is behind it all, making it all move. He's inside everyone and everything. And I need to realize that very deeply. And then I need to realize who you are, Krishna, personally, and develop the feelings of personal love for you. On all three of those levels, I need you to bless me. And so Chapu mentioned those quiet moments. We need to make those quiet moments, and we need to consciously build them into our day, and we need to speak to Krishna. That's called prayer. That's called vandanam. Don't treat Krishna like he's a statue, like he's made out of stone or wood or something like that. Speak, open up and realize that he's there with you at every moment, right? It was just like if we had a friend standing next to us, we would be aware and we would feel it and we would be conscious of it and we would reciprocate accordingly. Well, Krishna is in the heart, and it's the sadhus, the great souls. They're never unaware of it. They're feeling it at every moment. And so Chabu was asking me, what is my prayer especially goes there. I want to be Krishna conscious. I want to move through this world always conscious that you're there in my heart and that you're there behind everything. That's more than anything. That's my prayer. And I try to talk to Krishna every day on that level and pray to Krishna every day on that level. And maybe the easiest way to do that is as we lie down to go to sleep. Take that time to bring your mind to Krishna and talk to Krishna. Don't ignore him. Say good night, say good night to Krishna. Share a little bit what's in your heart, a little bit about what happened in the day, a little bit about, it's almost like you're in prison and your loved one is out of prison. Or, you know what? It's even more like rehab. It's like you're in rehab, right? And the one that you love is outside and you get to talk to them on the phone before you go to sleep every night. And you say, yeah, I'm still here. I'm just waiting for the day where I'm healed, where I've gotten over this and I can be back with you. It's a little something like that. I'm here trapped in the material world, Krishna, and I've got this lifeline of you in my heart, but I'm longing for that time. I'm longing for that day when I can be back with you. And the more that we express that, the more that he'll hear it, and he responds to our prayers. He responds. Don't ever think he's not hearing. We have to have that faith, and you'll feel it. And step by step, a little bit more and more will become Krishna conscious.
That was beautiful, Kaustubha. Thank you.
Thank you, Chapuji. Thank you. Thank you, Chapuji, for the question. Thank you, Mariji.
I think that's it.
That's it. So we'll be back when?
We will be back on Tuesday.
Say it again.
Tuesday?
Tuesday, probably at the regular time.
Yeah, I think it'll be 7 a.m.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Arrivederci. We gotta get in. Ciao. We'll see you soon. As Raghunath always says, it's a beautiful day for a beautiful day. And let the Krishna miracles flow.
Sign up for your sage groups.
Sign up for Sage Group right now. Now's the time. Go.